Imagine this. One bullet fired in a quiet Balkan street on a summer day in 1914 sparks a fire that engulfs the entire world. Millions of lives lost, ancient empires shattered, the map of the globe redrawn in blood. This is not fiction, it is the brutal reality of World War I. But how did a single assassination in Sarajevo lead to the deadliest war humanity had known up to that point? In the next 20 minutes, we will journey through the causes, the horror of the trenches, the breakthroughs in killing machines, the suffering on the home front, the final desperate battles, and the lasting scars left on the world. World War I began in 1914 and ended in 1918. It pulled in over 30 nations and cost more than 20 million lives, both soldiers and civilians. It marked the true end of the old 19th century world and the birth of the brutal 20th century. In the years before 1914, Europe was already a powder keg waiting for a spark. Great powers competed fiercely. Britain ruled the seas in a vast empire. Germany rose rapidly as an industrial giant and built a powerful navy to challenge British dominance. France burned with desire to reclaim lands lost to Germany in 1871. Russia sought influence in the Balkans. Austria-Hungary struggled to hold together its multi-ethnic empire amid rising nationalism. Militarism gripped the continent. Armies grew larger every year. Conscription became normal. New weapons like machine guns and rapid-fire artillery promised quick victories. But the deadliest trap was the web of alliances. Germany and Austria-Hungary formed the core of the Central Powers. France, Russia, and Britain created the Triple Entente. Any local conflict could drag the whole continent into war. That local conflict arrived on June 28, 1914. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife, Sophie, were assassinated in Sarajevo by Gavrilo Princip, a young Bosnian Serb nationalist tied to the Black Hand Group. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia. On July 28th, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Russia, bound by treaty to protect Serbia, began to mobilize. Germany declared war on Russia on August 1st, then on France 2 days later. To strike France quickly, Germany invaded neutral Belgium on August 4th. This violation brought Britain into the war. Within weeks, the dominoes had fallen and the Great War had begun.
Germany's plan was the Schlieffen Plan: sweep through Belgium, crush France in 6 weeks, then turn east to face Russia. But the plan failed. Belgian resistance and British troops slowed the Germans. French taxis rushed reinforcements to the front. In early September, the First Battle of the Marne stopped the German advance just outside Paris. The miracle of the Marne saved France, but locked both sides into trench warfare. By Christmas 1914, the Western Front stretched from the North Sea to Switzerland in a line of muddy trenches, barbed wire, and machine gun nests. No one expected the war to last 4 years. On the Eastern Front, things moved differently. Russia invaded German East Prussia, but suffered disaster at the Battle of Tannenberg in late August 1914. German generals Hindenburg and Ludendorff used intercepted radio messages to encircle and destroy 2 Russian armies. Over 90,000 Russians were captured and 30,000 killed. Russia never fully recovered its early momentum. The Ottoman Empire joined the Central Powers in late 1914, opening new fronts in the Caucasus and the Middle East. Life in the trenches became the defining image of the war. Soldiers lived in mud, rats, lice, and constant fear. Shelling never stopped. Rain turned trenches into swamps. Trench foot rotted flesh. Shell shock broke minds. No man's land was a deadly killing zone of craters, wire, and corpses. Poison gas first appeared in April 1915 at 2nd Ypres. Chlorine clouds choked men. Later, phosgene and mustard gas burned skin and lungs. Gas masks became essential, but imperfect. The war's longest and most symbolic battles came in 1916. Verdun began in February. German commander Falkenhayn wanted to bleed France white by attacking a place France would defend at all costs. The battle lasted 10 months. Over 700,000 men fell for a few miles of ground. French soldiers hung on with the cry, "They shall not pass." The Somme followed in July. Britain launched its biggest offensive to relieve Verdun. On the first day alone, Britain suffered 57,000 casualties, 19,000 dead. The battle dragged to November with over 1 million total casualties. Tanks appeared for the first time at the Somme in September, slow and unreliable, but a glimpse of future warfare. In 1917, Britain pushed at Passchendaele. Months of rain created a quagmire. Hundreds of thousands died for a few ridges.
Other fronts brought more horror. The Gallipoli campaign in 1915 aimed to knock Turkey out and open supply lines to Russia. Allied forces landed but were pinned on beaches. 8 months later, they evacuated. 250,000 casualties. The campaign forged Australian and New Zealand identity, but ended in failure. In the Middle East, British forces fought the Ottomans. Lawrence of Arabia helped Arab revolts. Jerusalem fell to the British in December 1917. War at sea was crucial. Britain's blockade slowly starved Germany of food and resources. Germany replied with U-boats. Unrestricted submarine warfare sank merchant ships and passenger liners like the Lusitania in 1915. This turned neutral opinion against Germany, especially in America. World War I transformed technology and killing. Machine guns like the Maxim fired hundreds of rounds per minute, mowing down infantry. Artillery became the biggest killer. Huge guns fired millions of shells. Airplanes started as scouts, but evolved into fighters and bombers. The Red Baron, Manfred von Richthofen, became a legend with 80 kills. Tanks evolved from experimental Mark Is to more reliable models by 1918. Flamethrowers cleared trenches. Submarines nearly won the war for Germany. These innovations made the war more industrial and impersonal. The home front suffered as much as the trenches. Total war demanded everything from civilians. Governments rationed food, fuel, and clothing. Propaganda posters urged sacrifice. In Britain and France, women took factory jobs making shells and guns. In 1914, few women worked in heavy industry. By 1918, millions did. They drove ambulances, served as nurses and clerks, and even joined auxiliary military units. This work fueled arguments for women's suffrage. In the United States, housewives signed pledges to conserve food, grow victory gardens, and avoid waste. Children collected scrap metal and knitted socks for soldiers. Zeppelin raids on London brought war to civilians. Morale sometimes cracked under strain, but propaganda kept most people supporting the fight. By 1917, the war looked endless. Russia collapsed first. Food shortages, strikes, and military defeats led to the February Revolution. The Tsar abdicated. Later, the Bolsheviks under Lenin seized power in October. In March 1918, Russia signed the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, giving Germany huge territories, but freeing German troops for the West. America stayed neutral at first, but German U-boat attacks and the Zimmermann telegram in early 1917, promising Mexico land if it attacked the United States, changed everything. On April 6, 1917, the United States declared war on Germany. American doughboys began arriving in France by mid-1918. Fresh troops and resources tipped the balance. Germany launched its last gamble, the Spring Offensive, in March 1918. At first, it succeeded, pushing deep into Allied lines, but exhaustion, supply problems, and Allied counterattacks stopped it. Marshal Foch coordinated better Allied unity. In August, the 100 Days Offensive began. British, French, American, and Commonwealth forces advanced relentlessly. Tanks, airplanes, and creeping barrages overwhelmed German defenses. Mutinies spread in the German Navy and Army. The home front starved. On November 11, 1918, at 11 in the morning, the armistice took effect. Guns fell silent. The cost was staggering. 9 million soldiers dead, 21 million wounded, millions more civilians from famine, disease, and the Spanish flu pandemic that swept the world in 1918, killing tens of millions. The Treaty of Versailles in 1919 punished Germany with huge reparations, lost territory and military limits. New nations rose from old empires. The League of Nations formed to prevent future wars, but proved weak. Women's roles expanded forever. Colonial troops who fought returned home demanding rights, leading to independence movements decades later. World War I was more than battles. It was the moment modernity collided with ancient hatreds. It ended illusions of progress and glory in war. It taught that in our connected world, even a small spark can ignite global catastrophe. We remember the fallen through poppies, silence, and stories passed down, lest we forget.